Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. Change does not happen overnight, but it does happen daily. If you're sitting there wondering why your life hasn't moved the way you want it to, don't look for a miracle, look at your habits. I'm talking about the small things you do when nobody's watching. The habits that seem like they don't matter, but they're shaping your future more than you realize. Small habits done daily build unstoppable momentum. That's the truth most people overlook when they're chasing big dreams. They want the breakthrough, the spotlight, the success, the big win, but they ignore the quiet, repetitive actions that lead to all that. See, momentum isn't created in a single moment. It's built in silence, away from the crowds, when nobody's cheering and nobody's looking. It starts when you wake up and choose to be consistent with the little things that seem too ordinary to matter. You do them not because they're exciting, but because they're building the foundation for something bigger. Let me tell you something real. Your life is not going to change because you made one bold move. It's going to change because you made one small move and you kept repeating it every single day. Momentum doesn't come from emotion. It comes from motion. And not just any motion, daily motion. You brush your teeth daily, don't you? You eat daily. You breathe without even thinking about it. That's the kind of frequency you need with habits that matter. Read 10 pages a day. Go for a 10-minute walk. Write down your goals every morning. Speak affirmations in the mirror. These things are small, but when you do them every day, they create energy. And energy builds rhythm, and rhythm builds momentum. People get discouraged because they think they need to overhaul their whole life overnight. But that's not how real change happens. Real transformation is like compound interest. It grows over time. You won't see the results on day one. You might not see them on day 10. But if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, that one tiny habit will lead to another and then another, and suddenly you look up and you're not in the same place anymore. You've moved, you've grown, you've built something that can't be stopped. And you know what's crazy? Once you start building momentum, it becomes easy to keep going. It's like pushing a heavy truck. At first, it's hard. You strain, you sweat, you question if it's even moving. But once that truck starts rolling, you don't need as much force. It carries itself. That's what happens with daily habits. The first few days might feel like a grind, but then it clicks. You find a groove. You start enjoying the process. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop questioning your worth. You stop needing motivation because now you've got momentum. Momentum gives you confidence. When you keep promises to yourself, even small ones, you start believing in yourself again. You build trust with yourself. That's powerful because most people break their own promises. They say they're going to start, but they stop. They say they're going to change, but they quit. But not you. Not if you commit to the daily. Not if you focus on momentum, not motivation. You're going to be different. Because you're going to do the little things that other people ignore, and those little things, they turn into big things over time. They turn into discipline. They turn into progress. They turn into results that nobody can argue with. So if you want your life to move, start small, but start strong. Repeat that small action every day until it becomes part of who you are. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel ready. Just move. Build that momentum one tiny win at a time, because once you get rolling, nothing can stop you but you. Success is not accidental. It's the result of discipline in tiny things. A lot of people look at successful folks and think they just got lucky, like life handed them the prize without the prize. But that's not how it works. Real success is built, not given. It's shaped every single day by the decisions a person makes when no one's watching. It's not the result of one big break or one lucky shot. It's the quiet discipline and the small, consistent choices that add up to something powerful. Most people don't realize how much of their future is being created by the daily actions they take out of habit. It's easy to assume that success comes from big, dramatic moves, the giant leap, the overnight transformation, the viral moment. But those are just the highlights. What you don't see are the early mornings when no one else is awake. You don't see the decision to read when the TV is calling. You don't see the commitment to show up even when motivation is gone. You don't see the thousands of small, boring, disciplined moments that make that highlight possible. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And every time you choose discipline in the tiny areas of life, you're stacking bricks for your future. Think about something simple like setting your alarm 30 minutes earlier to work on your dream. Most people snooze it, but the ones who don't, the ones who get up and make use of that time daily, over a year, that's over 180 hours of focused time they've poured into something that matters. That's progress you can't fake. It didn't take talent or genius or luck. It took discipline. One decision, repeated every single day. That's what separates average from exceptional. It's not that the exceptional people are better. They're just more disciplined about the little things that others ignore. Success doesn't respect emotion. It respects consistency. You won't always feel like doing the work. Some days you'll be tired, discouraged, overwhelmed, even tempted to quit. But if you've trained yourself to be disciplined with small actions, you've built a system that kicks in even when your emotions want out. That's where greatness lives. In those moments when nobody would blame you for quitting, but you keep going anyway. It's not about willpower all the time. It's about structure. When you make discipline a habit, it becomes automatic. It's not something you have to think about. It's just part of your identity. People want to win, but they don't want to do the small disciplined things that winning requires. They want the income without the sacrifice, the body without the diet, the spotlight without the grind. But life doesn't work like that. The universe responds to discipline. You keep showing up, you keep doing what others won't, you keep planting seeds even when it looks like nothing's growing. That's how harvest happens. Quiet consistency leads to loud results. The person who learns to discipline themselves in the little things, how they speak, how they think, how they spend their time, will eventually master the big things too. Every time you make a disciplined choice, you're not just changing a moment, you're changing your mindset. You're telling yourself, I'm in control. I'm not a slave to my feelings. I lead my life. And that identity shift, that's the real win. Because once you see yourself as someone who follows through, who finishes what they start, who doesn't need hype to work, that's when everything changes. That's when people start to wonder how you got so far ahead. But it won't be a mystery to you. You'll know the truth. You got there because you practiced discipline in the smallest corners of your life, where success is born and character is built. Your habits shape your mindset, and your mindset shapes your destiny. The way you move through life every day, the way you wake up, the way you think, the way you react to challenges, is not random. It's shaped by your habits, the things you do repeatedly, often without even thinking. And those habits are forming the way your mind works. They train your thinking. They influence how you interpret the world, how you see yourself, how you approach problems, and how you handle opportunity. If you want to change your life, don't just focus on what you want. Focus on what you do consistently, because those daily actions are silently molding the way your brain operates. People think mindset is something you're born with. Like you either have a positive mindset or a negative one, a winner's mindset or a loser's mindset. But that's not true. Mindset is built, shaped, and influenced by repeated behavior. You can train your mind the same way you train your body, by repetition, By consistency, by feeding it the right things. When your habits are lazy, your mindset becomes weak. When your habits are sharp, your mindset becomes powerful. When you constantly push yourself, when you keep promises to yourself, when you surround yourself with growth instead of negativity, your brain starts to expect more from life and from yourself. That becomes your new normal. Let's say you start every morning scrolling through negativity, complaints, and distraction. You are starting your day in reaction, not intention. Over time, your mindset adjusts to expect stress, to dwell on what's wrong, to feed on comparison. But if you start your day with gratitude, reflection, goals, or a bit of reading, your mindset begins to see life through a different lens. That small habit starts to rewire your perspective. You become solution-focused instead of problem-driven. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. And that shift in thinking opens doors, builds confidence, and allows you to step into your future with intention instead of fear. Every time you do something hard that you didn't feel like doing, whether it's working out, having that uncomfortable conversation, turning off distractions to focus, you're building a habit that teaches your brain resilience. That becomes part of your mindset. Your brain says, oh, this is what we do. We don't back down. We don't run from discomfort. Over time, that habit creates mental toughness, and that toughness becomes your edge in life. That edge is what gets you through when others quit. That edge is what helps you navigate failure and keep going when things are going your way. The reverse is also true. When you let small excuses slide, when you skip to work, when you indulge in negativity or avoid responsibility, you teach your brain that comfort is the goal. You condition your mindset to avoid growth, to expect ease, to shrink from challenge. That becomes a dangerous habit, one that shapes a mindset that always seeks shortcuts and never builds strength. So, if you want a powerful mindset, start with powerful habits. If you want to think like a champion, act like one. Train your thoughts by training your actions. Set boundaries with what you consume. Be intentional with your time. Protect your focus like it's gold, because it is. Your habits are either training your mind for greatness or for mediocrity. There's no neutral ground. The way you live daily is reinforcing beliefs in your head. If you keep showing up and doing the work, your brain starts to believe that you're disciplined, that you're capable, that you're worthy of success. But if you always give up, if you always procrastinate, your brain starts to believe the opposite. So you can't wait for confidence to show up. You build it. You build it by choosing the right habits over and over again until your mind catches up and your destiny begins to unfold in the direction you've trained it to follow. Consistency beats intensity when it comes to life transformation. Most people think that success or change comes from going all in for a short burst, pushing hard and expecting massive results instantly. But that's not how real progress is made. Real lasting change is built quietly, slowly, and steadily through consistent effort. It's not about doing something huge once. It's about doing something small every day, even when no one is clapping, even when no one sees the effort, even when you don't feel like doing it. Consistency builds strength that intensity never can. Intensity is loud but short-lived. Consistency is quiet, but it never stops moving forward. There's something powerful about a person who keeps showing up, not just when they're motivated, not just when conditions are perfect, but all the time. When it's hard, when it's boring, when it feels pointless, they still show up. That's where transformation happens. Most people wait for motivation to strike, like lightning. But successful people don't depend on feelings. They create systems, routines, and habits that they follow regardless of how they feel. That's the difference. Intensity might get you started, but consistency is what keeps you in the game when the excitement fades, and it always fades. The hype will die down, The novelty will wear off. What's left is discipline and routine. That's where the real work lives. When you go too hard, too fast, you burn out. You give up. You tell yourself it's not worth it. But when you build slow and steady, you grow in a way that lasts. A little effort every day beats a massive effort once in a while. Think about someone who goes to the gym once a month for 5 hours. That person won't see results. But someone who works out 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, will change their body over time. It's not about what you can do in one day. It's about what you do repeatedly without fail. And that's true for anything: your health, your mindset, your relationships, your finances, your dream. Consistency is the secret that everyone overlooks because it's not flashy, it's not exciting, but it works. Small, consistent actions compound. They grow slowly, then suddenly. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. You don't see results. You start questioning the process. But if you keep going, something shifts. Your body changes. Your thoughts change. Your belief system starts to evolve. One day you wake up and you're not the same person anymore. That's the power of consistency. It transforms you so gradually that you almost don't notice, but the people around you do. They see the difference. They ask how you did it. And the answer's simple: I didn't stop. I didn't rely on big moments. I just stayed committed to the small ones every single day. Consistency also builds trust. Not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that you can be counted on. That kind of self-trust is rare and it's powerful. It builds confidence that doesn't depend on outcomes because you know you're showing up, you're doing the work, and you're not backing down. Intensity tries to impress people. Consistency doesn't care who's watching. It does what needs to be done because it's committed to the process. That's the mindset you need if you want to go the distance in life. Anyone can be intense for a moment, but only a few are consistent long enough to see real change. And those few, they're the ones who win in the end. They're the ones who master their craft, who rise through setbacks, who build something meaningful that lasts beyond the noise and the rush. Every successful person has mastered the power of routine. No matter what field they're in, what background they come from, or how they started, one thing they all have in common is a strong, consistent routine. Success is not built on random energy or occasional effort. It's built on structure. It's built on knowing what needs to be done and doing it without excuse. Routines create rhythm, and rhythm creates results. When you build a routine around your goals, you remove decision fatigue. You eliminate distractions, and you create a system that works for you even when your emotions don't. A strong routine is the foundation of every high achiever's life, and without one, success remains a theory, not a reality. When people look at someone who's made it, they often say things like, they're so talented, or they're so lucky, but they rarely ask about the routine behind the success. Because the truth is, talent is common, luck is unpredictable, but a routine, that's built by choice. It's built by sacrifice, by focus, by saying no to things that waste time. When you wake up each day with a purpose and a plan, your mind becomes sharper. You don't waste time deciding what to do, you already know. And that clarity alone sets you ahead of 90% of people who wake up just hoping the day will go their way. Hope is not a strategy. Routine is. A routine creates habits, and habits shape identity. If you want to be someone who wins, someone who grows, someone who reaches higher, build the daily routine of that person first. Start acting like the version of you who's already successful. Ask yourself, what would that version of me do in the morning? How would they speak to themselves? How would they spend the first hour of the day? That's how you reverse engineer growth. You build the habits first, And then you become the person those habits belong to. When your routine reflects your goals, your life begins to shift in that direction almost automatically. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it does mean it's intentional. And intention always outperforms impulse. Think about athletes, artists, CEOs, or creators at the top of their game. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They've built routines that hold them accountable. They train at the same time. They create at the same time. They review their goals. They reflect. They practice. Their results are not magic. They are the outcome of structure. Structure gives you freedom. Most people think routine is restrictive, but it's the opposite. A solid routine frees your mind from clutter. It frees your energy from stress, and it frees your focus from being pulled in every direction. That freedom allows you to channel your best into the things that matter most. A good routine isn't about perfection. It's about consistency and intention. There will be days when you fall off. That's normal. What matters is that you return to the structure you built. It's your home base. It's what brings you back to alignment when life gets messy. And life will get messy. That's guaranteed. But when you have a routine, you don't spiral. You don't drift for long. You come back to center. You reset faster. You rebuild momentum quicker than someone who never had a routine to begin with. That's what makes it powerful. It's not just a schedule, it's a system for staying grounded, for staying productive, and for staying focused. Building a routine takes effort up front. You have to experiment, you have to adjust, you have to eliminate the unnecessary. But once it's set, it becomes second nature. You no longer have to think about whether you'll do the things that move you forward. You just do them. That habit of showing up, that structure that supports your goals, that rhythm you create through repetition, that becomes your secret weapon. Not because it's loud or flashy, but because it's reliable. And in a world full of distractions and noise, reliability is rare. When you show up every day at the same time with the same focus, life begins to respond to your discipline with opportunities, growth, and success that can't be denied. The way you do the little things determines how the big things will happen. People often think that greatness lies in the big moments, the big breaks, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. But what they don't realize is that those big moments are shaped by the way you treat the small ones, how you carry yourself when no one is watching, how you handle tasks that seem unimportant, how you approach the ordinary, the routine, the repetitive. That's what builds the character that can handle the extraordinary. Excellence is not reserved for the spotlight. It's earned in the shadows. When you train yourself to treat the little things with care, precision, and purpose, you begin to create a life that is prepared to handle success when it arrives. Everything you want starts with the things you overlook. How you manage your time when you think it doesn't matter. How you organize your day, how you clean your space, how you respond to people, how you follow through on commitments, even the ones that seem small. These things form a pattern. And the universe doesn't reward random effort. It rewards alignment. When your small actions are aligned with your bigger vision, you create momentum that no setback can stop. But when you slack on the small things, you sending a message to yourself and to life that you're not ready for more. You saying, I want big results, but I'm not willing to respect the small responsibilities. And that disconnect is why so many people stay stuck. You've got to treat every moment like it matters, because it does. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you half-heartedly go through the motions in the little things, that mindset bleeds into the big opportunities. You can't flip a switch and suddenly become excellent. You've got to practice excellence. And that practice happens in the details. It happens in showing up on time, in keeping your word, in delivering your best, not just when it's easy or exciting, but when it's boring, inconvenient, or unnoticed. That's where discipline is born. That's where confidence is built. That's where preparation meets purpose. It's easy to get caught up in chasing the outcome. Everybody wants the promotion, the recognition, the success story, but few want to honor the process, the daily process, the unglamorous grind that tests your patience and your pride. That process is where greatness grows. If you only give effort when there's a reward in sight, you're not building strength, you're feeding ego. But when you give your best to the smallest tasks without applause or validation, you're telling life, I'm ready for more. And life responds to that energy. It rewards the person who is faithful with the little things by trusting them with more. Take a look at successful people, not just the ones with fame or fortune, but the ones who live with purpose and peace. You'll find that they take the little things seriously. They pay attention. They're intentional. They don't cut corners. They follow through, not because someone's watching, but because it's who they are. That integrity flows into every area of their life. You can't compartmentalize discipline. If you build it in one area, it spills over into others. If you neglect it, it creates cracks that show up when the pressure comes. Sometimes people think they're being held back by lack of resources, lack of connections, or lack of opportunity. But many times, it's the lack of excellence in the small things that's blocking the breakthrough. Life is watching how you handle what you've been given. If you're not maximizing what's in your hands right now, how can you be trusted with more? The door doesn't open when you beg for it. It opens when you've proven you can be trusted with what's already in your care. The big things are simply a reflection of the small ones, amplified. So if you want to change your future, start with how you're treating the present. Start with the way you do the little things, because they are the training ground for everything that's coming your way.